2 Maccabees chapter 3. When the holy city was inhabited in complete peace, because the laws were very well observed, on account of the godliness of the high priest Onias and his hatred of wickedness, it happened that the kings themselves honored the place and glorified the temple with very magnificent gifts. Even Seleucus, the king of Asia, provided revenue at his own expense for all the services of the sacrifices. But a certain Simon from the tribe of Benjamin, who had been made protector of the temple, was at variance with the high priest about the administration of the city market. Thus, when he could not prevail over Onias, he went to Apollonius, son of Tarsus, who at that time was governor of Coele-Syria and Phoenicia. He reported to him the untold wealth in the temple treasury at Jerusalem, so much that the funds could not be counted. Furthermore, they did not belong to the account of the sacrifices, and it was possible they could fall under the authority of the king. When Apollonius met the king, he informed him about the money that was disclosed to him. So the king chose Heliodorus, who was over his affairs, and sent him with orders to remove the aforesaid money. Thus, Heliodorus immediately set out on his journey, seemingly to make an inspection of the cities of Coele-Syria and Phoenicia, but actually to carry out the king's purpose. When he arrived in Jerusalem and was kindly received by the high priest of the city, he told about the disclosure and why he had come, and inquired whether this was truly the case. The high priest informed him of the deposits belonging to widows and orphans, and also some money of Hyrcanus, son of Tobias, a man held in very high regard, the value of which totaled 400 talents of silver and 200 of gold. All this was contrary to the report of the ungodly Simon. He also told Heliodorus that it was altogether impossible to wrong those who trusted in the holiness of the place and in the dignity and inviolability of the temple, honored throughout all the world. But because of the king's orders, Heliodorus said the money must by all means be taken to the king's treasury. So he set a day to go in and direct the inspection of these funds. There was no little anguish throughout the whole city. The priests prostrated themselves before the altar in their priestly garments and appealed to heaven, to him who gave the law concerning deposits, to keep them safe for those who deposited them. To see the appearance of the high priest was to be wounded at heart, for his face and the change of his color revealed the anguish in his soul. For alarm and a trembling of body had come upon the man, through which the pain in his heart became evident to those who saw him. People also rushed out of their houses in crowds to make a public supplication, because the place was about to be brought into contempt. Women, girded with sackcloth beneath their breasts, amassed in the streets. Some of the virgins who were kept inside ran together to the gates, some to the walls, and others peeked out the windows. All stretched out their hands to heaven and made entreaty. There was something pitiable in the prostrations of the entire populace, and in the anxiety and great anguish of the high priest. So they called upon the Almighty Lord to keep safe and secure what had been entrusted for those who had placed them in trust. But Heliodorus continued with what had been decided. So, when he arrived at the treasury with his bodyguard, the Lord of spirits and all authority was already present. He caused such a great manifestation that all who dared to accompany him were panic-stricken at God's power. They turned about and fled in feebleness and terror, For a certain horse appeared to them, having a fearful rider. It was arrayed with a very beautiful pack saddle, and it rushed furiously at Heliodorus and struck at him with its front hoofs. He who sat thereon was wearing a full armor of gold. 2 other young men also appeared to him, remarkable in bodily strength, very beautiful in grandeur, and illustrious in dress. They stood on each side of him and pummeled him continually, inflicting him with many wounds. Suddenly Heliodorus fell to the ground, and a deep darkness overcame him. His men then picked him up and put him on a stretcher and carried him away. This man, who had just entered the treasury with a great retinue and all his bodyguard, but now was not able to help himself. So they came to know, and it was clearly proven to be the power of Almighty God. He was speechless because of the divine visitation, being thrown on the ground, deprived of all hope of recovery. The people blessed the Lord, who acted marvelously for his own place. The temple, which a little while earlier had been full of fear and trouble, was now filled with joy and gladness, because the Almighty Lord had appeared. Certain friends of Heliodorus quickly entreated Onias the high priest to call upon the Most High to grant life to him who was lying there, about at his last breath. So the high priest, suspecting the king might think some foul play was perpetrated by the Jews regarding Heliodorus, offered sacrifice for his recovery. While the high priest was making the offering of atonement, the same young men again appeared to Heliodorus, dressed in the same apparel. They stood and said, "Be very grateful to Onias the high priest, for on his account the Lord has granted you your life. Now, since you were punished by heaven, report to all men the majestic power of God." Then, having said this, they became invisible. Then Heliodorus offered sacrifice to the Lord, and made very great vows to him, who had spared his life. So after he gladly received Onias, he returned with his forces to the king. Then he bore testimony to all men about the deeds of the great God, which he had seen with his own eyes. When the king asked Heliodorus what kind of man would be suitable to send on another journey to Jerusalem, he replied, "If you have any enemy or plotter against you, send him there, for you will receive him back thoroughly punished, if he should escape at all. For truly there is some power of God about that place. For he who is his dwelling in heaven watches over that place and aids it, and destroys those who come to do it harm." So this was how things turned out concerning Heliodorus and the preservation of the treasury.